Welcome to the Wednesday, January 15th meeting of the Environmental and Sanitation Committee. Welcome. We can quickly do a roll call. Jenna Rowan is here, me, Laura Spalter here, Stephen Fruit
Here.
Emily Houseman
Here.
Omar Murray absent. Karen Ardente will be here online later. Robert Zanuzzi is absent and Rob Spalter
Is here.
is here. So we do have a quorum, 2, 3, and we have 4. Plus Rob, sorry, you only half count.
Right. I don't count for
You
quorum.
are a valued member of the committee.
Yes, I am.
Um,
And a voter.
exactly. So last meeting was in November and we did not have a quorum. No, it's okay. So can we approve September minutes? Does anyone have any discussion, comment, questions?
Motion to approve.
I'll second that.
All right. All in favor, any opposition or abstentions? Passes anonymously, or unanimously, not anonymously. All publicly. Same for the November 20th meeting minutes, which also includes the whole PowerPoint, but he didn't print that.
Motion to approve.
Second to it. Emily.
Okay, any abstentions, comments, questions, passes, again, perfect. Well. Pass. Right, you will skip DSNY, I guess. Chairperson's report is Happy New Year, for the most part. We can talk about budget things too, I guess that's the next part, actually, on top of that, next, really. Only other thing is, I hope that you are putting your trash in containers with lids, or your building does it for you, depending on your situation. But I guess now they're giving tickets out as of like January 2nd or 3rd.
For not using the specific.
No, for not just using a lidded bin, any bin.
You can't put the black bags out anymore?
Right, it can't be bags on the curb, it has to be just in any container with a lid.
In private houses, but buildings.
Yeah, up to 9
still-
units.
Oh, right.
But again, even a 9-unit building, maybe you have someone doing the trash.
Right, and isn't this the one they're piloting in Harlem or something?
Right, so for
Right,
multi-unit
okay.
buildings,
Yeah,
they're piloting like having like a big dumpster that's maybe on the corner or somewhere on the street
Mhm.
that the building like adds things into. And then they can come and just pick that up.
And that actually gets raised.
Right, so that's why they're only trialing it like in one place where they can then just use the truck that can pick it up, on that route.
Is that in the street or on the sidewalk?
I think they're trying to, it depends where there's room for it too. Ideally, if there was a big enough sidewalk, you could have like a cut in and have like an area, like you could actually have the like a, where it's flat to the street, but it's like in the space the sidewalk was in.
Mhm.
Oh, but it wouldn't
But you
work.
still can't have people blocking it anyway.
Right, because
So
the
it might
parked
just-
car,
right,
there, you
yeah.
can't get to it.
Yeah, which is why they would make like a cut in on the curb, or they would just put it in the street and
In the
paint
street,
it
yeah,
like stripes around it. Or something. I mean, I guess big buildings that do that just like wheel them out. Or do they have the garbage trucks like pull into like a loading dock or something? Like in your building, like
I
here's
live
the
in
trash go.
my building is 121 units. And I think they put the trash out in black bags on the curb
Right now, yeah.
right now.
Yeah,
I
because they're
wouldn't-
not required to do anything differently.
Right, I wouldn't like bet my life on it.
And recycling can still go out, however,
Yeah.
in bags, there'll be piles of that, and
We compost. that.
that is good. But compost, right, everyone can compost now.
We've
And it has to
been
just be going to
composting
ground,
for
those they
years.
put into the brown bins though, they don't just pile that up in the street. They
Um,
must have like bigger brown bins or something for the
yeah,
big
we have
buildings.
big no, we have the multiple brown bins. Actually, Rabbi Bob Kaplan's wife Wendy, he's my neighbor. And she was like a huge champion for like getting composting back, like in our building, and really like spearheaded the effort. And she had the Department of Sanitation come to our building one day and they like handed out the bins. It was very exciting.
It's so
Yeah.
good, it means the
I know,
trash
we have-
doesn't smell,
I know, we used to
and it's
come,
almost nothing.
It took me so long, cause I was like, that's ridiculous, just stupid city rules, and then I tried it a few years
Yeah.
ago. And I said, this is amazing. it's amazing because it reduces your trash so much. Then when the mayor
Take it away.
said no for a while, we have a private house, I have a big
Yeah.
bin, so even though the city's doing it again, they don't get my compost, I put it.
Yeah, we do it.
We also, we owned it, when we lived in Birmingham, I had a house and we used to compost in our backyard.
I mean, you can't
Like
put,
soil.
you can't put the meat bones, you can't put paper towels and that kind of stuff, that's important, because that won't compost at home.
Right.
Anyway, we add it to our soil, no, okay, so,
Okay.
So yes, we all love compost.
Mhm.
It's good. Oh wait, someone is, I don't know,
Maybe it's Karen.
347, number,
must be Karen.
oh, sorry, can you identify yourself?
You let them in, right?
Yeah, they're in, they're not even muted.
She
Speak.
said, she said she would call from the car.
Oh, I mean, if you're Karen, that's fine, nod your head, I mean, say something.
Maybe they're muted.
No, they're not muted.
No, themselves.
Hello?
That's fine. Yes.
Hello? Yes, I'm trying to join the meeting for the community board.
Yes, who, can you say what your name is?
Yes, my name is Deborah Harris.
Welcome.
Thank you.
So,
Okay, and David, I'm assuming is
Here we go, man.
David Gelman, perhaps? But he's muted, yes. Welcome, David, as well.
you want to discuss the budget or the, letter? Issues.
Oh, we can talk about budget, we can talk about budget first, before we get responses from the agencies. Anyway, so right, last year, we only asked for one capital budget request, is that true? Yes.
From the sanitation.
Right, just one, which is, well, no, DEP, as a capital project, which is to add a combined sewer overflow over by, like, in between Spite and and Marble Hill railroad stations. Or change it, maybe get rid of this combined sewer overflow.
Mitigate.
Yeah, mitigate with a living shoreline green infrastructure, cause I guess that is an outfall that's not changing even with the Tibbets.
I see.
I mean, even that really does flow into the river too. I think this is just north of that, basically, or, west of that. So that was right, that was left over, and we continue to ask for it, because last time when we asked for it, they were just like, we don't know whose property this is.
We'll address outfall, no complaints about this for that. Won't put greenery there. Is it Metro North property? Let Effie know, what do we envision on this? Oh, is that our comment? Oh, that's
No, that's a
Effie's.
different, it's similar but different.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No,
No, that's Effie's response, Effie : but you're right, to let Effie know, what do we envision on this?
but that's not the same thing as this, combined sewer overflow at, the Metro North Railroad Station.
It's the
This
only
is-
capital.
Here it is.
You
Well,
guys
this
need
is
a
when we-
street segment or intersection
is.
for green infrastructure.
It is, Laura.
It
The
is.
numbers match.
Yeah,
The tracking code matches.
The tracking, okay, you would not know that from the request, okay? Planning should tweak these.
well, cause well, no, it's the same wording, basically, but right, that was one, we kept that one on.
Okay,
Where the other one, they acted like they did already evaluate and felt like none of this worked around here. And so other than specifically requesting certain areas, like that's why we took that one out. The old one, we're looking back 2 years. The, stormwater management. Is confusing because we have two different things. Oh, no, we still had that. Oh, I see, because none of the other ones are capital. All right, I wanna stop looking at the old one. So there's two, we have two things in our hands.
one is from 2025 and one is.
Right, and that has responses because, and then one is what we sent in 2026.
Right, but we don't have the responses.
Not yet, we're gonna get those at the end of this month, probably to talk about next month. So today is just sort of to
Just
think about,
reviewing, today,
to
just
look at
reviewing
what
what
we
we
had.
did. What we
And
did.
then, but for next time, let's all think of like, if
Mhm.
there's something you want to change or add
Mhm.
or subtract. You know, I still, you know. I mean, I don't think any of these need to go away necessarily unless, right, they feel like they're fully addressed. But, you know, increased funding to like manual litter control is probably a great thing, cause there's definitely litter everywhere. So it's like things like that, it's like good to keep encouraging it, so I don't know what, you know, DSNY is responsible,
Oh,
but.
I see, here it is, for evaluated street segment. And here it is, evaluated street segment, okay, that language is the same, okay.
Where,
On this page,
right,
at the top. Where it says expense budget requests,
right, oh, value street segment
Right,
intersection for
one.
green infrastructure.
yeah, and then that goes with the other one. Which must have been also asked the year before, you know what I
Right,
mean?
yeah, well, it was,
Right, and that's why we have this response, but we asked for it again, is that what we did?
yeah,
Okay.
It's an expense request.
Well,
But we
on this
kind of
list
were-
it is.
yeah,
And
oh yeah,
this
no,
is
we didn't change.
evaluate.
You know why? Because this list is probably the community board list, which, oh, no, we separate capital from
We do.
expense.
Yeah, this is under expense.
So I don't know why, in other
The
words,
responses are not separated, they're all together.
That's it.
The document with the responses is just all of ours together. The first one's the expense, I mean, the capital and the rest are expense, because we couldn't think of any other capital things, basically.
okay,
But I guess according to David, we should think of more capital things.
Well, this was a capital request for DEP. Are there capital needs in the community
So there's.
for sanitation?
Hi,
well, we'll
Eric.
ask them. Hi, Karen.
Right.
If sanitation, if they don't come, we can always write them or,
Right, well, exactly.
call them.
Is it, ironically, they won't come in and it's gonna snow this week, right? I think it's supposed to snow.
Is it supposed to snow?
I think it's supposed to snow, Sunday. It says rain on Saturday, but I don't understand how it could possibly be warm enough to rain. It has been. Oh. Not what the baby's play outside.
Well, right, and then one of these, you know, we asked the expense budget was to be, you know, maintenance and cleanup of daylighting project, Big Hill Park. I mean, that's something that is happening, but it's like, we're sort of asking for them to maintain it before it even exists.
What, Tibbetts Brook
Yeah,
project?
the last one, number 7.
Yeah, it's
Well,
never gonna
I
make it
think
in.
that, is that what's below, 242nd Street to 230th Street?
Yeah.
Well, the reason is because, for like 40 years, that was a jungle and, full of abandoned, equipment. And a certain former chair of this committee was very involved with
That's amazing.
TSX and got them to completely clean it up.
Mhm.
You know, they cut all the weed trees, they took all the
Yeah, they worked for months.
refrigerators,
Remember that, Steve? I think you were on the
and
committee when we cleaned up the.
who knows what else, you know, it's like,
Refrigerators.
you didn't wanna walk through there with rats running around.
But
and
Before
It was
Tibbetts.
really freaky.
Daylighting
And
was
so-
imminent, before it was
Oh,
imminent.
yeah.
It would be
6
nice
years ago.
if it was,
It was just the
not
whole.
left.
property.
And then CSX asked for another $5 million when it looked so nice.
Right.
yeah, well, curb appeal.
Right, we're there, and then they were.
And they got it. They actually got $6 million more.
I don't know that you,
Right, and that's gonna be, they're gonna talk about it next week at Parks.
right. I encourage everybody
On the
to go
22nd.
to the Parks Committee next week.
Or
It's
tune
the
in.
final plan for the daylighting. DEP and Parks are presenting the final one.
Right, and their response to this years ago was, on top of this, we will give progress report. So it wasn't really like saying no to it either, but it's like, so then do you keep asking for that because you don't want them to forget?
Mhm.
Well, it's probably never gonna make it into the top 10 or 20.
Anyway, which is okay.
Yeah, that's true. It's a priority. I mean, it's just, it's.
Well, it still goes there, because I mean, even though there's a ranking,
Right.
each agency is only getting the things aimed at them. And they could still pick to do like the 10th thing on the ranking if that's something that's doable and that they want to do. Like, just because it's low on our list doesn't mean that it's not still being asked for.
Yeah, do they see it though?
What?
Do they see our number 10, even though it didn't make it into the board, or it's, full top 10 or 20?
Well, we passed on how many, David? I mean, everything got passed on, or no, I mean, all of these. These
Well,
8
that's true.
things got passed on
That's
through
a
this
good
committee.
point.
I'm sorry, yes, the
Mhm.
agencies do see the details. It's just a question of what the borough president will prioritize on our behalf, but that's a different meeting.
Mhm.
Well, right, because the agencies respond independently as well. So. Exactly, these are all the same sorts of things, short of, I thought of something.
And then the drone park, public access is really sort of like a plea, but
Right,
since they don't have public access, they're not looking at it.
well, and they say we'll address individual complaints, and so if there is litter, people should call 311, and that will get passed, even if it goes to DEP, it'll,
Yeah,
get
no,
passed
no,
to
but
them to
the-
say to clean it
But
up.
the
Oh,
guts of it is to
Oh.
expand public access as
right,
opposed to
which
pick up
they,
litter.
at this point, they're still gonna say no.
Right, right.
But I like asking for it because maybe when they're finally done with all of the work, or they could make like a path around it that was accessible, even if they're not letting you like walk out into the middle of it.
Well, they do
Cold
have a
Springs
path
attorney.
around the outside of the.
Not around the whole thing.
Karen,
It's in
did
Manhattan.
they attempt to do a path around?
They have a path
The deep
around the
park.
whole reservoir.
Yeah.
There's a
they
path
have-
there. There's a walking path.
It's just like Central
isn't it-
Park.
But I don't know, is it
Can't see the
maintained?
water.
Has it,
Well, you say it's below the mound of like earth though.
Yeah.
Like you can't actually see the reservoir from the
Right,
path.
that's the whole
Like
problem.
for part of it, you're just on the sidewalk and there's like
Oh, yeah,
grassness.
right. Right.
Right.
Right, because the water has to be level and the ground is not level. Right.
correct, but I mean, in response to the path, they technically did one to try to.
Right, like if there was a
Yes.
elevated, it would be
Right.
cooler.
I will tell you that we did have a meeting, I can't remember when, I think it was December, with John McLaughlin at the end of Fort Independence Park. And it came because the runoff is coming out of the park and then it swings around and rips through the street where the bus stop is. And so they're gonna look at it and see if they can put some green infrastructure. We had a meeting because there was money to do the design from the Harbor Estuary Program. They had some extra money. And so it all remains to be seen whether or not we're gonna do, but that's one of the expense budget items for the DEP. To do green infrastructure.
Oh, yes, that's the first one.
Right, so they have two, they have one that's up at the top of the hill, by Amalgamated, because there's a plan for the Hilltop Plan, which I don't know if I explained that to you, David, but we had the Hilltop Plan, we did this in like, 2014. It takes a long time before anything ever happens, really. But so they're going to do that, that's gonna be bid out, the DP, it's on DP property, DP is gonna do it. And then this other one, they're gonna design something to keep the water in the park at at Fort Independence Park at the back end. And then also, when it comes around and comes out off the hill and ends up going on the street, they're gonna do something there. The erosion is like severe.
And that would be DEP.
DEP, right? So that item, at least they're working on it. I mean, that's only like two things, so we wouldn't consider that to be complete, but we'd like to have it replicated in other areas.
Exactly, because they're.
And if they did a good job, then people could model it, where, because of all the hills and everything that we have. Right,
So you retain more water uphill, it's not all gonna flow downhill.
right, right.
which is what happens all over here.
Right. So did I
Karen,
miss
we-
sanitation department? Did sanitation department
No,
come?
they did not join us yet,
They flaked.
so
Oh.
far.
Yeah, that's a better way to say it. They have not joined us yet. I shouldn't have said flaked. They have not joined us
We're
yet.
getting snow.
They didn't hear that. It's
Scratch
okay.
that from the
They're
record.
salting everything.
No, but
yeah.
the Zoom recording.
It's there. Tell Artie to cut it out.
Karen, were you here when we discussed mitigate combined sewer overflow outfalls into Spuyten Creek, adjacent to Spuyten and Marble Hill, Metro North Station, with a living shoreline and green infrastructure along DEP easements? That was a capital budget request. I don't think you were on when we discussed that.
No, it
Right.
wasn't, no. But,
Right, that was,
yeah, that's okay, that's good.
What's-
Because
Okay.
we will get to that, so, we do have a grant from the Army Corps of Engineers along the Harlem River to do a living shoreline with the DEP, but the DEP doesn't have the match yet. And they put in for the match at OMB, so if they got the match, then we would be able to actually have the Army Corps and the DEP work together and do living shoreline and there. So that remains, that should be in there.
So this language would remain.
Yeah, this language will remain.
Somebody in the waiting room, Dan?
well, now
Kelly.
there is. Yeah, whoever that is.
Yeah.
Okay, so that was our big capital budget request. That was
Mhm.
for.
So we didn't do so bad, you know what I'm saying?
Okay, so now which one are we on?
I mean, the only last one is the community composting programs that confuses everybody. Because now everyone composts or, gives organics to the city. Though what it was asking for was funding for New York City Compost Project, which is like non-existent now. And the community composting and the drop off at farmers markets and all of that, which they cut funding for before expanding organics collection to the entire city through sanitation instead.
Maybe we'll ask sanitation.
Yeah, so
what
that
the
was sort of a
status- I'm always
question for them.
confused about the status. Things come in, they go out, they leave, they replace.
Right,
I
and
really-
that
I
had been
don't know.
fully defunded
Mm-hmm.
when they were cutting back on it.
Right, and maybe that's why this is here.
Which is why it was here, but it's like, is this still an
Right.
ask that we think is important enough to ask for? Or if you could do curbside organics pickup in every borough, it's accessible enough that we don't need to be asking for even more places to bring your compost to.
Well, what about the people who live in apartment buildings where the building isn't buying into it?
I think the buildings now have to
They
separate
have to.
organics now, it's
Yeah.
required on everyone
Yeah,
now.
this
So
is
then
maybe
I don't
per
think-
se.
Yeah, I don't think there's a point
It will
in,
be.
right? Am I wrong?
No, I agree, that was the question.
Mhm.
Does anyone think this is even necessary?
I'm just like wondering who would be,
Cause it used to be people would take stuff, you'd bring it to, the Y farmer's market on Sundays and they had someone you could like give your compost.
And there was one at Church of the Mediator.
Why do we do that all the
I
time?
bring my recycling to them.
But that's not, I bring
yeah,
textiles there too.
No, I'm just
Very
wondering,
useful.
like,
Right.
up here in North Riverdale, where there are more private houses, you're seeing people, composting? Are you seeing?
On their own,
there's some-
They're,
yeah.
they're required to.
You live in North, sorry, I don't
But
know,
they're-
I know.
Yeah,
Laura
everyone
lives
does,
in
the brown
North
bins are
Riverdale.
out like next to the.
Yeah, they
trash.
are, okay, good. So I'm just like wondering if people aren't composting what's standing in their way, and would this help, but I don't think it's necessarily a solution. Okay,
Right. And some of it was like including smart compost bins, which, they were
Yeah, I
trying those, some places, there
yeah.
were those like solar powered, compost bins, you like pull, you like press like a pedal
I
and
don't
it
think it's
opens or
necessary,
something.
yeah.
They have them, in Midtown in a couple places,
Oh, I try not to
which
do
I guess
that.
it's like if you're trying to throw away, you have food, your food scraps
Oh,
from
I see.
lunch, you can put it in, instead of just adding it to the trash, you can
People are
actually
so good
separate
at
it.
separating things.
Right, and they have recycle bins on the curb too, whether,
Yeah.
that you,
Yeah, but
I look for them.
No,
I suspect that people will just take the clamshell and the cardboard
Right.
and throw everything
Right.
in it. I don't have that
It's
kind
a
of
big
faith
challenge.
in my fellow citizens.
Right, but I mean, that was the idea of having them, but right, I think
We could
it's
all
less
just
needed, I mean, I
start
hope,
speaking Scandinavian languages,
Right.
it would work, but.
I mean, if anything, I would
Very,
hope
very
that restaurants would be composting,
obedient.
but they probably don't have to. because they have to contract with private carters to collect their trash,
It can
non-DSM
certainly be
wide.
mandated, that's, I think
Right.
that's. the
And that would be
permissible
nice,
regulation.
but I don't know if that is,
I think they're
For
gonna
us
be
or not.
mandated to have covered bins. You know, I think that.
Right.
I think they do.
Things
They-
like
yeah,
this,
well,
I mean, the businesses, the business.
They probably,
they
water
do.
business has always had dumpsters.
Yeah, no, that's
Always.
fine, they just, I'm just saying
But
they use,
recycling, I don't think so.
They're a rat problem in the city.
I mean,
There's big rat problems.
Yeah, that was a big initiative, Mayor Adams.
A rat.
No, not that rat.
yeah, no, right?
Okay, so moving on to number 4. Electronics collection and disposal, restore e-cycling program to include community drop-off for buildings with less than 10 units in Bronx CB8 and hold more safe, and electrical, events. Which now
I
you
like
have to-
this, though
I love
I would
this.
change the language to fewer than
Mm.
10 units, but other than that,
Yeah.
I missed that, there was a building by me that has the like cabinet for it still, where you could, where you would leave the
Hmm.
electronics recycling, but there's no one picks it up, so you can't. It's just
Yeah, I
gonna
don't
get
know.
left there,
Um,
but that's a useful
What
thing, is
did
where
we
do you
used-
take your
we
things,
used to
you have
have-
to
You
like,
have to wait for safe events.
right, and the safe event is out in
Yeah.
Orchard Beach.
Right,
always,
Orchard Beach.
So you have to drive it out there,
Is it,
there's something
which
going
is great,
on
you have like a TV to get rid of.
in Hunts Point every week where you could take things.
But little things you can take to,
electronic?
yeah, you can take to
No,
Best Buy
I-
and Staples.
No, but also,
Also.
I think like when
But
the
they charge you
assemblyman
for
and
TVs.
when the assemblyman and the council member do paper shredding, you can often drop off your electronics there.
Really?
Yes,
I didn't-
yeah.
I mean, that's cool,
I forgot.
but that's good, well, exactly, 'cause we need
When
more
they,
things.
they usually only do the paper
Right,
shredding
and
when
hold
it's
more safe events.
warm, like when
Yeah.
it's warmer out, right? Or not.
Yeah,
You
sometimes
cannot
they're.
take
You know what,
pictures
it's
of
like
it.
to wear-
Right, well, you don't wanna have
Wait,
volunteers outside sorting and having to deal with all the electronics
Right,
in the freezing
right,
cold.
right.
So it makes more sense to do
Yeah,
it
but
when it's nicer.
I'm not sure if every time when they do paper shredding, they do electronic collection, but often.
I guess,
Okay,
I
So
think it's,
question for Dinowitz,
Yeah,
if that's
it's a
true.
question of the space and the place. And,
Well, right, the electronic recycling uses a lot of space and they're like filling these big trucks.
I think sometimes the Y takes
Like
them,
pallets
at
and
the
stuff.
Sunday market for the Y takes them like some.
yeah,
But yeah, you can take stuff to Best Buy and Staples, anything they sell, rechargeable batteries and small electronics, printers, whatever. But bigger things, they'll sometimes charge you for, like televisions.
Regular batteries still just get tossed, right?
No, you can take them to IKEA.
I don't think I'll ever
in
go.
New Jersey, in Elizabeth, New Jersey.
What, Paramus, Paramus as well, or Brooklyn, I guess.
You have to get the visa to go to New Jersey.
Yeah, that's the only people I've seen that will
Right, so
take
that's
them these days.
country.
Cause like Whole Foods used to and they don't anymore. They only take like rechargeable batteries and like cell phones. But for normal alkaline, I'll collect them forever until a safe event, basically. In like
Alright,
2 Ziploc bags.
Good for you.
Number 5, Jerome Park Reservoir, public access.
Right.
Did we discuss this already?
Yeah, we did, and we
Yeah, we
kinda
did.
feel like this is, they're never gonna do it. And they say there's a path around it and then individual littering and cleanup. I
Yeah,
mean,
but you have to keep it on because the neighborhood people, you
Yeah,
know,
and I'm
I
fine
like it
asking
on.
for it, it's a reach, but okay. It's maybe not, a high priority then, but it's still
Well, someday
not bad to
DEP
ask for.
may need something that they really want the community support for, and this could be a
Right,
bar.
you're like, oh, let's
situation.
do tours of the
Yeah.
pump house or whatever, I don't know.
All right,
Right.
so we leave it on, but it's not,
not high.
Daniel,
high up.
Daniel,
Yes,
this is the kind of thing that you may want to contemplate a letter that you write with Julie requesting it. It's not, because it's not so much a budgetary item as a policy item. Do they want to allow access to the reservoir? Which
it's
I'm
also-
sure they're quite leery about, but doesn't mean it shouldn't happen. I mean, they do occasionally have tours. I actually took a tour 5 years ago across the reservoir. So you may want to think about taking a different approach.
Well, right now they're in construction.
well, exactly, so that's why it's sort of, we're leaving it as a placeholder for
but this
when
also,
it's allowed to be, when it's reopened and it working.
And the letter and the request are not mutually
That's
exclusive.
what I was
Yeah.
gonna say.
Yeah.
They're
And
not
also,
exclusive, but also
this
during
is-
construction is a good time to say, well, put a fence here rather than there.
True.
But I mean, we are asking for funding for the Jerome Park Reservoir contracts to be increased for litter. I mean, we're mentioning litter, and we're mentioning illegal dumping, and there
Right,
is a
it's both.
problem there.
Yeah,
So it is it is a budget item, but I think that's a good idea about a letter too. I think all these things, letters are very good, you know?
well, exactly, and we talked to DP, we can talk to them about it too more,
Mhm.
but exactly.
Okay,
Just for information.
vacant lot cleaning. All vacant lots will have an apartment building on it soon, we won't
Yeah.
have any vacant lots. And Karen and I were laughing about that.
Right.
Increased funding.
It's a whole new genre of humor, city of gas humor.
I know,
Humor.
are there many examples of this, of like vacant lots that do fill up with litter, cause don't they have to be fenced in? They're supposed to be fenced in
I'm
if
like
they're
trying to think
vacant.
where vacant, I can't like.
Well, like
think
right
of
next
it.
to, the other Denowitz's office, one
Oh,
more to the
yeah,
right,
yeah.
they just tore that whole building down, now that's,
Uh-huh.
but people was parking in it. It now has become a parking lot instantly, for the moment, cause I guess they're not yet ready to build, even though they tore down that whole house. It's just been like cars lately, but I think it's still fenced in. Or like, I mean, you can picture, there's,
I'm just, I'm just like coming up.
We don't have a lot,
Formally, we do not have vacant lots in community water.
we just don't.
What looks
Well, we
like-
did have vacant lots in Community Board 8, but now there's buildings in them.
right, there's
And,
one in
and if
Kingsbridge.
you point out any other more vacant lots, they'll just put a building there.
Right, that's what I was thinking.
There's the
that
one
it's
next
immediately,
to,
you're saying,
Milton Fine,
build here.
it's like all grass.
Which one?
Milton Fine on, like on Kingsbridge Road and like 232nd.
Right, I'm like trying to think of the, I've lived here for.
PS4 or whatever, there's a whole lot next to it that's just grass and fenced in, and has just been
Yeah.
empty for
I
ever.
wasn't
You know,
aware.
but I don't even know who owns that, it probably might even be.
A lot of what people think of as an empty lot is actually private property, belongs to someone, it's just not maintained,
Of course,
you know what I
right.
mean?
Where there's nothing on
But
it.
it's
There are
not-
neighborhoods that
That's
have.
right.
Well, it's like,
empty lots
it's
that
like
are the result
sloped,
of non-payment.
it's
Right,
just like
well,
a
it's
huge
like-
grassy slope
Right,
that runs like that whole block.
SAR tore down
On like
the bank.
232nd or 233rd. or
SAR
something.
tore down the bank and they're building, like it looks like an empty lot right now, but
Right,
they just
right,
are in the
Right,
middle.
but they have a
of it.
fence around it, there's not like a.
Yeah,
Yeah,
well,
you-
there's a
yeah.
permit on it.
So, right, is-
Oh,
does
there's
anyone
a permit
know,
on it.
right,
I don't,
so should we be asking for vacant lot, are there any vacant lots to clean? Is this even a
I
problem?
wouldn't even,
No, but I think what we have in places is dumping. Do we deal with
That's
that?
where we should be more specific then about that. Yeah.
I agree.
Between the dump sites.
Right, but for dumping, I mean, I would
That's-
hope you 311 it and they come and pick it up.
But you do need personnel, I mean, this is a, expense budget because
Right,
you need personnel for. to do
Oh,
the
I know a
fences.
vacant lot that needs to be cleaned up.
Which one?
The one that Metro North is on between 230th Street and 225th Street. It's just a complete mess.
Because
Oh,
they
you're
don't
talking
do a
about-
very good job of separating their recyclables from train to train. It
It
all spills over. No,
There's
I'm
no
kidding.
train there.
I'm
There's no
kidding.
train there. It's the Metro North.
I know. That's where they're gonna be doing this whole thing came about because they're moving their recyclables and trash sorting from the Hunters Point yards up to behind Marble Hill houses because of Grand Central Madison. And this is something that we've written a letter about and should continue to press them on, because that is creating environmental injustice, not even allowing it to persist, but it's actually creating it. It's literally within eyesight of 300, 400 apartment windows in Marble Hill. And they really should move it like down underneath the High Bridge, which is where they have abandoned railroad tracks. But that aside, one thing, Daniel, you may want to do is you may want to have the committee or membership do a survey of the district and come up with lots that you want to address. And that too could become a letter for them to pursue. Because as I recall, I think it was 2 years ago when we convinced them to take care of that lot at that weird intersection, the top of the hill for above Bailey. I forget. I'm sorry, I don't recall the cross streets, but it was a weird
Oh,
triangular.
Bailey Place and Bailey Place and Fort Independence. I know what you
Yes.
mean. Yeah.
And they did clean it up because of the pressure report. But if you come up with a list, sort of like the step streets, you come up with a list of lots that exist and should be cleared, that might be useful.
And maybe you should do that lot on by Kaipak Street that the two Dinowitz were upset about. Did you see that? It
Uh.
actually is a street and it goes from a 60-foot street to a 30-foot street. Does anybody know
talking
what I'm
about
talking about?
At Capac Street and
At
Knowles
Kaipak,
Crescent?
on the other side from you, on the
Yeah, that's the controversy of
between
who owns
601
it,
and
who should
609.
fix it.
Yeah.
It's not clear, and it's
Not
probably never gonna happen because to make it legal would require a lot of
But we're
space.
talking about a vacant lot. It's vacant and it needs to be cleaned.
Are you talking about the path leading
Yeah.
from Arlington down to
Yeah.
Capac?
Yeah.
Well, they're fighting about it as a pseudo step street.
Yeah, it looks like a step street. But it doesn't matter. It's still, if it needs to be cleaned, it needs to be cleaned.
I don't understand where this is.
Someone should take a look at it.
So we're going back to the 11th ball.
Yeah, we're going back to 11th Hall.
Getting too old for this. Decades of the same conversations.
Well, if we make a list, we could just give it to sanitation,
Well, exactly.
and that's, you know,
I mean, I'm trying to think where, I mean, I think I've seen them, but you know, where people are dumping in our community district, and I'm not coming up with anything. But I think that there are spots.
I think around the reservoir, there's
I
you know,
see.
perennial spots. Deb's
Oh, you mean like down?
Garden Group has, dealt with that.
Right, using 311.
Well, exactly, a lot of these, I mean,
Those are
many
the only
things
complaints
like,
that
I feel like if you
I-
see littering on some property through one. And hope for the best. I mean, I would love, I mean, vacant lot cleaning, how about just, sidewalk cleaning, but I mean, that's supposed to be businesses, right?
Businesses and, private homes.
But they could,
It's
I would
just the
request
street.
better enforcement of that, because like, over by me, by the Marble Hill, like 225th station, the sidewalk is always just like blowing litter all the time, because not every business does pick up, but it's windy.
The station of what, for
Subway, the one train,
this one
under
train?
the one train, like,
Oh, yes,
by,
yes,
like,
yes, yes.
by the, vein place that
Mhm.
does not sweep its sidewalk. And then that trash just, tumbleweeds down the road, and so like that whole stretch from like 225th to whatever it is, 228th.
Who owns it?
I mean, it's sidewalk,
Sorry.
and it's like various businesses that, care to varying degrees.
And what happens is if you call sanitation for it, they will ticket the business owners,
Mm.
which becomes a separate problem because, their businesses.
Improved enforcement is always a good budget request.
Right, exactly, because that still requires a sanitation person to come, assess the situation, figure it out, and actually maybe ticket somebody. And that, if they're not doing that regularly, then people stop caring. Or, never cared in the first place.
Well, that was the thinking behind cleaning up the CSX. It was rats, it was disgusting, it was.
And they had to elevate the fence along the Major
No,
Deegan,
and it was
because when
like,
people
you
get off
own
at
this.
230th Street,
You have
they
to
would
clean it
come
up.
from Westchester,
Mhm.
I mean, that's what.
park, and dump refrigerators and just throw
No,
stuff
but you own
onto
it,
that.
clean it
Yeah.
up.
I gotta get out
Right.
more. I just.
Well, we've been just involved with this stuff, like, for over 40 years.
I think also I'm just like,
You know, maybe your price went up or you were able to see it, but the fact is, if anybody who's in the borough or in Community Board 8 and you own a strip and it looked like that with refrigerators, rats, garbage, you know, it has to be cleaned up, and that's what this committee did, and we would do it again. You know, the fact is, the price was the price and it was negotiated and that's the way the city does business. But for our point of view, it was a horrible eyesore and it's never returned. There's some graffiti, but it's never returned to that. It has been somewhat maintained. So, and all along Metro North and things like that, the sanitation department usually will clean it, even though Metro North is responsible for cleaning it.
Well, I guess we all just voted on that ballot initiative that should make it easier for DSNY to clean stuff,
That's
right?
right, and they're responsible for everything,
They're now responsible for everything.
right?
So if anything, that maybe should help, because it won't be like, oh, well, that might be MTA property, it's like, they can just clean it.
But in terms of the budget, it's just for enforcement.
I think more enforcement and your
Yeah.
availability of cleaning crews,
Yeah.
if that's a
Yeah.
thing they have, which great. I mean, I think it would be nice if people clean up after their dogs, but I don't know if that's a
Okay, and then
budget issue.
when we hear from sanitation, we'll ask about equipment, you know, and anything that
That they need, yeah. That's what I was
Capital and expense,
asking about. but,
yeah,
you
I
know,
mean-
I know we've perennially been requesting equipment, and this is a different agency, but, you know, from parks in, you know, in Vancouver.
Right, but if they did, if they're like, oh, if only we had some new street sweepers, you know,
Right.
whatever, that can start being something that, you know,
Right.
gets requested along with the cop cars that we keep requesting, I think.
Okay.
This is a citywide kind of thing,
Right.
I'm actually just raising something, but, you know, by middle 2026. A lot of people, I guess it's just people who are in private homes, but it also buildings, you know, are gonna have to buy a specific trash can. And I
Yes,
don't know,
June 2026.
I don't know if it only applies to the regular garbage, or if it also applies.
It's just
to
the regular
recycling.
garbage,
So
recycling,
it's just one can.
they make
Okay.
matching recycling bins, but they're optional.
I see,
And in general, putting recycling in bins is still optional.
I see,
Your
okay,
recycling can be in bags on the curb, or, you know, everything
okay, as they
shoved
say
into a
in
cardboard
court then,
box, or, you know, whatever.
withdrawn,
Yeah,
withdrawn.
yeah,
I was concerned.
But for
that
the trash, it'll have to be their bins
the
only in
Homeowners
June.
of having to purchase multiple specific bins at 50 or
Yeah.
60 bucks a shot was a lot, and I wondered
Well,
if
right.
that could be subsidized, but the fact is, if it's just a single bin and they'll last for longer than the homeowner, probably,
right.
it's not.
Well, and the bins have like serial numbers and they're matched to you when you order it, so like if it got stolen, they would like know that it was your bin.
Hmm.
Theory, at least if you order, cause you have to order it through
You don't
their site.
anticipate a big black market down by the.
No, I mean, if everyone has to buy the same bins, then no one's gonna steal them,
Are
it's the
they
same bin.
binned? Can we get them binned?
They are, it's the thing, they
bin.
have like a serial number
It's the
stamped.
bin.
they do?
Yeah, and when you order it, it says what your serial number is.
Wait, and you can only order them
You
through,
could also buy them at Home Depot.
okay, so there's not like a monopoly, like the
No.
sanitation.
You know, what is a
department.
monopoly on what the bins are, it's a specific bin, DSNY contracted with the company to make these bins that say like, you know,
And
like
there's
New York
like-
City.
The same price everywhere.
Yeah. And it's a fixed price, they need approval to raise the price, they can only ask to raise the price every 3 months,
How's
and it
it
has to be
legal?
approved. There's this huge long document if you wanna read it.
Well, they agreed to be
I'm
the
good,
sole.
thank you.
Because they're gonna
suppliers.
manufacture, they're gonna supply it, they're
They get a
gonna
good
service it, they're gonna ship it to you, if it breaks, they'll give you, you know, whatever, if there's a warranty. And they're gonna
Mhm.
produce enough and sell them at a low price point to all of New York City. Like that's a big contract, it's not just like tell everyone to go buy bins, Home Depot would run out.
Are they gonna make them with GPS in them, with like air tags? Because
I mean, I
I've
don't know,
heard
it
that.
has wheels, they're big, but you don't need to use it yet, June 2026 is when you'll need to.
Yeah.
All right, so are we?
But everyone has them, I mean, a lot on my block, people bought them because they all think they needed them right away, but they're fine.
So,
But the guys don't even lift them yet, they're just pulling bags out of them and throwing them in the
Right.
garbage truck right now. The idea is that later they would have something that would be able to grab onto
Mechanized, right.
these
They won't be
bins.
lifted.
Yeah,
dump
in,
them.
in New Jersey, where my younger son lives, that's what they do, they come and,
Large
They have
parts,
arms that-
large parts of the United States.
I can't-
And in France forever.
It feels like it would slow them down though, compared to how fast they are tossing bags into the back of that truck. If they have to, one bin at a time, like have it like lift and dump.
It's one bin per house, if what you're thinking.
Yeah, well,
or
right.
For a building, they're bigger bins.
That's
I
true.
think it could still.
It might still,
efficient.
you're right, if there's more in each, I mean,
It's
it's
supposed to.
still gonna be my one single bag, but yeah.
Right.
And I think there's probably less spillage,
Mhm.
for want of a better term, of when they're throwing the bags.
Well, yeah.
Sometimes the bags are on the sidewalk, because I've seen that, and then there's cars parked, and they're throwing them, but the bags are dripping and and stuff is coming out. They don't go back and say, oh, we need to clean this up.
No, they leave like a trail.
Right, but I was there, that,
The sanitation workers.
Yeah.
Sometimes, if
Yeah.
if the bag like rips apart, they're not gonna sit there and pick up every little thing that fell on the street. I mean,
Mhm.
there are street sweepers, but equally, if you're a property owner, you should go out and then you sweep up when you're bringing your bins in,
Mhm.
if you need to.
Mhm.
And right, that would be reduced if you're just dumping the bin straight in, everything goes in.
right.
Exactly. Okay, so then everyone, for next time, think if there's anything else,
Okay.
or what these should change into. And my main question, and that's gonna be for Farah, would be, if any of these could be, like, who would make signage? If you wanted like new signs that say like, even like the no littering or just like clean up after your dog signs, would sanitation? Would that come out of there? Can they put up signs?
I believe it is there.
I was just thinking, I think.
Cause there are extremely faded ones around some places, but there aren't any. I think the whole district could use
We
those.
do need
Mhm.
signs.
And I've seen them in other areas. But I don't know who put them up or if they were even, some of them just say like another community board, which makes me think that that community board funded making them and just distributed them to property owners to stick like on their fences.
Yeah, because in some communities, you see, people have bags.
But they have to
affixed.
maintain that.
Yeah, you know what I mean? It's usually volunteers that do that.
Right, and I don't even mean
Dog
that, I mean
runs,
just
yeah.
signs, like one round of signs on every no parking sign underneath it,
Mm.
clean up after your dog, $500 fine. Just to be like, please.
Yeah.
So you
before-
you could actually, do something separate. We should think about it. Like, let's not vote on it tonight. So Van Cortlandt Park Alliance has, these flags up. And they pay to put the flags up. And the latest set of flags now is about, birds. And they have a picture of a bird or a tree, and they just, no, the latest one is
Things all
coming, it's
up.
birds. Now it's trees. So, so they can do that. The community board has like some kind of extra money, every once in a while. I don't know how much it costs to make signs, or if you have to pay for them, like, or does DOT make the signs? I have no idea. I can't remember. It seems,
Well, it's a labor problem to get them installed, to get them affixed.
Well, exactly, that was the question, is like to.
And you
the
need
funding
permission.
to
Why- you need
Make
permission,
signs and
because
actually
somebody
put
could
them
say
up.
you don't want it
Farah asked at the.
Yeah.
on their
service
building
cabinet,
or on their
because
fence.
well,
Yeah,
if the
we-
DOT made the sign, they would put it up.
Yes.
But the process, you could either ask them on email, then the process.
If you're
to
talking
get
about putting it in the same sign that the no parking signs are, because you could just hook them in those holes that are there underneath it.
Doesn't have to be on.
Yeah,
every
that would
I don't
be-
literally mean everyone, but
Yeah,
all around, right, I mean, maybe that's DOT, but couldn't it be sanitation, and they just.
Well, I believe that there are signs that do communicate sanitation concerns, and I suspect that they're installed by sanitation.
Right, and since they're a city agency, they're allowed to use, they
Right.
can use the same posts
Yeah.
that are,
I would think so.
cemented in there,
Well, you never know, but
right?
turf.
Could
It's
it
also
also,
possible to create those signs and have homeowners affix them. And as you point out, the Van Cortlandt Park Alliance has signs or flags, and I know that Riverdale Nature Preservancy has its signs that people put in the soil in homes to, sort of talk
Camila?
about snacks.
Yes.
Committee.
Hey, yeah, just want to contribute to this because I know the process for the. I think Karen and it was referred to the banners that Van Cortlandt Park Alliance has along Broadway, and there's a very clear DOT process, an entity has to assume legal responsibility. You have to apply through DOT and use a certified, it's called a rigger. Then you have to have insurance for the signs where DOT has to be named as a beneficiary. And of course, then you have to like pay to produce the actual signs. So, but it is not, how to say, maybe when describing it, it sounds super complicated. It's actually is not all that complicated. And if the community board has money for this, this would be a fairly sort of easy process. One thing to recall though, is that the DOT gives this approval for only 60 days. So every 60 days you have to resubmit again the form. And of course the insurances have to be in place and all that stuff. But albeit, you know, I mean, I have signs in place, banners in place with whatever message I have, which by the way, you also have to submit the design because of course people would submit crazy stuff. And I have signs in place for the past 3 years. Kingsbridge Beats has those blue signs in place, I think, for the past 2 years and a half. So if you use a very high quality material, these signs could be very, very long lasting. In terms of the signs on poles, in terms of signs that you suggested DSNY to put up in terms relating to like dog feces, whatever, that's not usually being done on any public infrastructure, such as poles or parking signs on any type of traffic signs. And it's individual property owners funding whatever they want really and putting them on their individual properties. All these that you see in terms of dogs and, you know, various designs, by the way, which cost like $100 online or even less, they are all funded by property owners. So just wanted to, provide you with this kind of logistical and administrative DOT, DSNY details. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, of course, right, unlike the banners, which have, like, if you did put a metal sign up, it's just there. Like, you're done, it's like one round of putting them up. Like, it's not a reoccurring expense so much as like a single thing, and then you hope that it makes a difference of some kind. But right, whether that should, I mean, it could still be funded by DSNY, even if it's distributed like to the community board and we just give it to people to put up. I'd hang one. People have no parking signs in front of their driveways that they just bought at Home Depot and put up themselves.
Yeah, I don't have a parking.
But that's on their own
No, no.
property.
Right, but I mean, but I'm saying you could distribute it to community members to put up, and there would still be now more than 0 of the signs around.
I thought the city of Yes made no parking signs illegal. I'm kidding, sorry. There's a parking minimum.
Yes.
Ouch. Okay.
No, my house came with one and I can't take it off, so it's just there.
What, a no parking, a
Sign,
no?
yeah.
Do you want
It's like
something to eat?
rusted on there.
Theo, you want something to eat?
I don't think she was talking to us.
No,
No.
Theo is the
That's
dog.
the dog.
Yeah.
I was gonna say that, I was like, how do I talk to my kids? That's nice.
Yeah, or a dog.
Well, the
Okay.
dogs and kids and insecure spouses
So,
don't like you talking to anybody else.
so enough budget talk. The next thing was new business, discussion of list of concerns in the community, where Marion Cohen emailed us, had lots of questions, but I will follow up with her directly if she's not here at the meeting. Mostly specific things of like trash removal at RKA and why were some trees cut down.
That's parks, that's.
Right, which is Parks Department, and they're street trees, so even if they're stumps now, report them to Parks Department and in, I don't know, 30 years, they might get around to planting new trees there.
If she would call 311 on these complaints.
Yeah, but
that would be
the main
helpful.
thing is, right, for any of these, any specific things of like, why did that tree get cut down, or to report that you want a tree there, call 311, give the number to our office here,
Yeah,
Farrah will follow up,
right.
keep, you know,
The
and
tracking number.
we can track them, and they'll
Yeah.
email you every year saying, yeah, we know about that tree box.
And there's a very special relationship between sanitation and the Board of Education, the Department of Education. They have their own system set up.
Right.
And so that should go through 311.
And at least when I looked on like the street view and stuff over there, I saw trash in dumpster bins on the curb there. It was like all set up, it looked fine, so I don't know exactly what she means
I'm
either.
not sure if it was the same woman, but several years ago, there was an issue with 141 and their bins were fine. and their pickup was fine.
Weird,
But
okay,
I can't, it was too many years ago, but that's how I remember looking into it.
okay. Her other question was something about bird baths, but I don't know what to say about that. She wishes that there could be more bird baths in all the Riverdale triangles and parks,
What?
but that's not really anything.
Well,
That's not
the
so-
problem with bird baths is that it's lovely to attract birds, but it's a mosquito breeding ground.
Exactly,
So I
Why?
have several bird baths, but I
I don't know
I
any.
dump them out regularly and,
right,
you
you
know.
have to like change them,
I don't think that's something that we could deal with.
yeah, it's
I
not
don't
really,
know,
it's
like,
next
not
to
DEP or
Yeah,
DSNY,
yeah,
as
yeah.
Karen
Why do
said.
birds wanna
Then
go
there's the
bath?
catalog.
I like don't know anything about the
They
bird.
find every puddle is a bird bath, it's fine.
I don't know anything, like, do birds like to take a bath, is it like good for their health, like, I don't know anything
I
about
They
like
birds.
splash around, they wash their feathers, it's like the
They
under
what?
feathers
But
and
it's
the
like-
stuff, the little like birds will.
It's
This-
good for them?
I think so, they also like roll around in the dirt,
Alright.
the Chinese birds,
Yeah.
the, little house sparrows.
Yeah, I mean, we
Which
watch
are
our
an
bird
invasive
baths,
species.
but for public spaces and everything, no, that's
Yeah,
not
so I
happening.
know,
Mhm.
then also, right, she had a question about hedges at the bus stop across from the monument,
That's not for our committee.
but that might be, I don't know, it's either Parks Department or Department of Transportation
Mhm.
would maintain triangles, right? Isn't that, that's not, is that
Right.
also parks?
You generally,
Generally it's parks,
So that might be parks, actually,
yeah. It's not this committee.
and I don't understand which hedges she means. Either,
The
I was
one-
unsure on that, cause I don't see what hedges are missing, or like, I don't know. I don't notice anything different
The bus stop across the street from
from the monument,
the one going
I don't know,
south
Yeah,
on Riverdale Avenue.
there's an
it's a
area,
circle, so it's hard to say.
you know, it'd
There's
be
one
helpful if you
going
could take a
north.
picture.
Yeah,
It'd be
so
very
for any of
helpful.
these, I think pictures and,
And 311.
and 311, get
Yeah.
all of these, I mean, is,
Otherwise, they're just dumping their complaints
right, and
on
then
you.
she asked about, have you
You.
received free trash bins? I never heard of anything
Wait,
about,
repeat
DO,
that?
free trash bins, she,
No,
can you help residential buildings receive free trash and recycling bins?
Mhm.
That were offered in October. I don't remember there being any free bins offered this cycle. They were offering free
Years
brown
ago.
bins for composting until now. You can't get
years
them for free
ago,
anymore.
the brown bins were
Yeah.
giving out very, very
And you
little.
can still buy brown bins, still bins.nyc.
Right.
You can order the brown bins and new black and green and blue bins
Okay,
if you
so-
want them. But I haven't seen anything with free bins. That would maybe be a discretionary funding thing for, something to ask for, maybe if they wanna like do a distribute,
Mhm.
a council member wanted to give away bins as an event. But I don't know if that ever happening, but it's like the sort of thing you could try to ask for.
Yeah, they
Because
give
it
away.
seems
rain
like something
barrels.
they could give away bins one day if you wanted to.
You want me to ask? Brown, the big ones?
I don't, she just said, yeah, she said trash and recycling bins, so yeah, the
Okay.
wheeled new gray, like New York City bins
Yeah.
that are gonna be required in 2026.
I'm trying to think, they gave away the small ones,
The little
The
brown.
brown ones, right?
Right,
the little ones, like the
For compost.
countertop ones.
right, with.
Oh,
But I
oh,
was
and the countertop.
The
little ones.
countertop ones, they gave away the
Those are cool.
countertop ones,
Yeah,
but she wants the, like.
She didn't even
I
apply.
assume she was asking for the big
Big.
ones
They-
know,
I assume
to
they-
fight against the rat population. In my
Or they
opinion,
give away
the
rainbow.
best way to fight against the rat population is to sort all your organics out and put it in the compost. And then it isn't in your trash.
So you'll get your
And those are the snapped brown
responses
ones.
to Farron,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah, I'll give these, I'll write this
I
down.
mean, but this is a simple, no.
Exactly.
I'm just saying.
Right.
The whole email is
Right.
Kind of, right, and then the last
Yeah.
question, if there are educational flyers or online information to improve human knowledge of local wildlife. And I like this question, and everyone should just go to iNaturalist and search for Van Cortlandt Park. And you will get pages upon pages and pages, you can sort them by types of animal.
Nice.
And look at like every bird that's ever been reported in Van Cortlandt Park, and that will be a good list of what's gonna
When
be
Bob
around
Bender
here
was the
potentially.
chair, were you part of that, Steve, where Bob was part of cataloging? We all had.
Bob who?
Bob Bender, when he was Parks chair, had, it was a huge thing that he did in Van Cortlandt Park. Just getting all the species, getting all the,
Oh, it's a resource manual for the animals themselves.
yeah. No, Anyway.
Well, some of them
that's
you had to
good.
get,
I actually don't remember.
they needed reading glasses. tiny little
So was
reading
that,
That owl is listening, all right, I just
Exactly.
want you to know, that owl is creeping me out.
the owls are not as they seem. So, but yes, is that something that they released? Was that like a?
Yes,
I have to,
yes, they did, yes.
oh, I'm not crazy, right?
Okay.
I thought there was a little.
I forget what it was called. It was a count. It was a big count and everybody went there on a Saturday or Sunday. And they counted all the
Oh.
bees and animals,
was a
whatever
big
they
deal, yeah.
wanted to count.
Yeah,
They-
we counted things.
And they cataloged them.
Yeah.
You sort of have to be there at dusk to do it.
I'll look that up. But otherwise, when I was looking through it, I had a lot of fun on iNaturalist as a great.
Oh, so you have.
I
an
like
answer to that.
iPhone, iNaturalist.
It's called iNaturalist. Yeah, it's a website, and then
Oh, that's great.
I mean, I guess there's an app associated
So
with
you
it. You can
can-
report sightings, but if you just do Van Cortlandt Park, because obviously you can do it for every park, but nobody's reported anything in Ewen Park, even though you're just as likely to see whatever these birds are that are in Van Cortlandt Park anywhere,
Yeah,
especially if you have
Van
bird
is
feeder.
really unique though, because
So it's a very good.
Yeah.
But it's still, you can, every bird,
You can
every
see
flower,
birds,
every.
you can see herds.
like sort it, it has like a whole tree.
No,
But no.
we don't have, flyers and stuff, but you have, you could soften it with, you do have that
Yeah,
information.
exactly, and that's a great, it was a kind of, and there's other ones in there, but that was a good, that one was better. I also found like a little 3-page, trifold flyer that Wave Hill released that was just a
Oh,
text
nice.
list of all of the birds you could see there, and then like how common they are, but no pictures, and just like a little, just like a 2-page list.
Mhm.
So it's like if you were walking around and identifying birds, you would like check stuff off, but that
So
was.
one of the things that I am involved in is New York City Task Force on Biodiversity. I guess that's what we're talking about now. And they're going to come out with a report because there's a special anniversary with the UN. The whole world has biodiversity policies. Apparently New York City doesn't have a biodiversity policy. And so we're trying to have them do that, and maybe that's not gonna happen until May, so I don't know if we could refer her to that. But that would be something, that we might want to get involved in. Now, I didn't volunteer us to get involved in it, because I
Thank
don't
you.
know what it says yet. But, it's just something that we could, if we like that whole idea, it's something that we should look into. So one of the things is that they have these buildings, these Leeds buildings, and they tell everybody to do a pollinator garden, but you can't really have a good pollinator garden unless you're like close to some more trees. You can't just be close to other buildings. And so you would say in Manhattan, if you want to do a pollinator garden in your roof garden or in your lobby, of your fancy building, it should be like next to Central Park and not in the middle of, Times Square, so to speak. And so there's reasons for it, and it's a more healthy way to live too. So I'll just keep you informed.
Perfect, thank you. Yeah, I'll look into that.
It's the
Yeah.
New York Task Force on Biodiversity. New York City.
Was there any other questions that,
That was the list. Are there other community questions? Are there other questions?
anybody online have a question or
No.
a concern, any community people on Zoom? For the committee?
That's it. Otherwise, is there any old business? Anything we forgot to talk about? That we've talked about before? No?
Well, then,
Adjourn?
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Yes, thank you. We're
Thank
done.
you all for attending.
Thank you, Daniel.
Good job.
Everything you do.
Nice meeting. Thank you, Dana. Good night all.
Night, everyone.
Bye-bye.